The most observant person in any room isn't the loudest, it's the one who's witnessed life's ugliest truths and still stands firm. There's a reason toxic people struggle to influence self-reliant men, and it's not about being distant or distrustful. It's about vision, the kind that cuts through illusions. These men have endured more than most, mastered the discipline of silence when others would react, and prioritized honesty over convenience time after time. That piercing awareness? That's their defense, not against others, but against the deception lurking beneath polished surfaces. Independent thinkers don't become targets because they've opted out of society's endless competitions. They couldn't care less about validation. They stand alone by choice. And they never compromise their instincts to maintain relationships. These qualities alone make them virtually immune to emotional predators, energy vampires, and all varieties of psychological manipulators. Negative influences don't require force to spread, just someone with shaky self-awareness. But self-possessed men? They're constructed from life's hardest lessons, shaped in solitude, and directed by an internal guidance system that doesn't waver for theatrics, ego trips, or counterfeit affection. This isn't merely resilience, it's complete psychological armor. If this describes you, a man who studies before engaging, exits situations gracefully, and declines to be anyone's pawn, you're not damaged. You're awake. And though you may not realize it, you move through life with a form of protection invisible to most, but immediately recognizable to those who mean harm. Number 1. He reads patterns, not words. Language is the first weapon of the dishonest. It is easy to craft pretty sentences, to spin vows from empty air, to drape lies in the cadence of sincerity. The Sigma male knows this better than most. He has heard every variation of "I've changed" and "this time will be different." He has watched promises dissolve under the slightest pressure, observed how quickly conviction fades when convenience demands it. Where others listen to speeches, he studies behavior. Words are fleeting, actions are indelible. His discernment is methodical, almost clinical. He notices the micro-expressions that betray false warmth, the half-second delay in a smile, the tension in a laugh that doesn't reach the eyes. He tracks inconsistencies like a mathematician solving for X, assembling fragments of data into an unassailable truth. A single contradiction might be written off as human error. 2 suggest carelessness. But 3? 3 form a blueprint of character. By the time most people realize they've been deceived, the Sigma male has already exited the equation. There is no confrontation, no theatrical accusation. He simply withdraws, leaving the liar talking to an empty room. This is what makes him immune to manipulation. Con artists and emotional vampires rely on the victim's willingness to believe, their hunger for connection clouding their judgment. The Sigma male feels no such hunger. He observes with the detachment of a scientist, allowing time and repetition to reveal what words obscure. Charm doesn't dazzle him. He knows charm is often just the glossy wrapping paper on a hollow box. Tearful apologies don't move him. He measures remorse in changed behavior, not dramatic performances. In a world drowning in false narratives and curated personas, his ability to separate signal from noise is his greatest defense. He understands that people will tell you who they are, not in their grand declarations, but in the small, unguarded moments they think no one is watching. The way they treat strangers. How they respond to being inconvenienced. What they do when they believe no reward is coming. These are the truths he collects, the patterns he trusts. While others are distracted by eloquence, he is listening to the silence between the words. And in that silence, he hears everything he needs to know. Number 2, he's built from scar tissue, not fragile flesh. Life does not negotiate. It does not pause to consider your virtues or reward your good intentions. It strikes indiscriminately, sometimes with the subtlety of a shifting tide, other times with the brutality of a sledgehammer. Most people spend their days constructing elaborate illusions to soften this reality, convincing themselves that fairness exists or that kindness alone is armor enough against the world's cruelty. The Sigma male knows better. For him, suffering has not been an occasional visitor but a constant teacher. He has not been tested once or twice, he has been refined through repeated trials that would have shattered lesser men. Where others emerge from hardship brittle and fearful, he has been tempered into something unbreakable. His pain was never wasted, it became the forge in which his character was shaped. You will not find him nursing old wounds or seeking sympathy for past battles. His scars are not weaknesses, they are records of survival, each one a testament to endurance. While other men crumble under betrayal or grow cynical after disappointment, the Sigma male absorbs the lesson and discards the emotional weight. He does not parade his suffering for attention, nor does he allow it to make him cruel. Instead, his experiences have granted him a quiet, unshakable confidence, the kind that cannot be faked or borrowed. Evil recognizes this instinctively. Manipulators and predators, so accustomed to exploiting vulnerability, find nothing to grasp in him. No desperation for approval, no fear of abandonment, no hidden need to be understood. He has already faced the worst the world can offer and emerged not just intact, but stronger. This is why he cannot be controlled or broken. Where others rely on external validation, he answers only to his own code. Flattery slides off him, threats amuse him. He knows the true measure of a man is not in how he is treated by others, but in how he endures what life delivers. His strength is not performative, it is bone deep, the result of having been dismantled and rebuilt so many times that there is nothing left to break. When evil approaches him, it does not find a target. It meets a mirror, reflecting back its own impotence. The Sigma male is not merely resistant to darkness, he has absorbed it, mastered it, and in doing so, become something it cannot touch. Number 3, he's spiritually armed, not religiously programmed. The Sigma male's spirituality is not a hand-me-down. It is not inherited tradition, not blind allegiance to dogma, not the parroting of scriptures he has never questioned. His faith, or lack thereof, is a living, breathing thing, forged in solitude and tempered by relentless inquiry. He does not follow, he examines. Every rule, every ritual, every supposed truth is held up to the light of his own discernment. This makes him dangerous to those who wield belief as a tool of control. Evil does not always announce itself with a snarl. Often, it hides behind the mask of virtue, in institutions that demand obedience without understanding, in leaders who preach love while sowing division, in systems that swap critical thought for rote submission. Most never notice the corruption. They are too busy following the script. But the Sigma male? He reads between the lines. His compass is not a congregation or a holy text, it is the quiet, unwavering voice within. His connection to the divine, whatever name he gives it, is raw, personal, and utterly unconcerned with public spectacle. It is not found in pews or pilgrimages, but in the alignment of his soul with truths too deep for words. This is why evil cannot touch him. You cannot manipulate a man who questions everything, including himself. You cannot shame someone who refuses to wear labels like a borrowed suit. You cannot weaponize scripture against a man who knows that true divinity would never ask for blind compliance. If a teaching does not resonate with his spirit, he dissects it. If it reeks of control, he burns it down. The Sigma male is not here to be led. He is here to see. While others memorize prayers, he seeks the why behind them. While they perform rituals, he explores the roots. His spirituality is not a cage, it is a sword, sharpened on the whetstone of doubt and wielded with precision. Organized systems fear men like him, because he cannot be guilted into conformity, nor bullied into silence. He walks alone if he must, answering only to the integrity of his own soul. And so, in a world drowning in false prophets and hollow piety, the Sigma male stands apart. His armor is not the recitation of verses, but the unshakable knowing that comes from having stared into the abyss, and found his own light waiting there. Darkness has no entry point where such a man resides. It cannot twist what it cannot reach. And the Sigma male? He is always just out of reach. Number 4, he's not addicted to hope. Hope, when pure, can be the light that guides men through their darkest hours, but in the hands of the manipulative, it becomes a leash. Evil understands this intimately. It weaponizes hope, dangling it like a carrot before the exhausted and the trusting. I'll change. Just give me one more chance. Things will be different this time. These are the hollow promises that keep good people tethered to toxic cycles, draining years from their lives as they wait for a transformation that will never come. The Sigma male refuses to play this game. He does not subsist on the crumbs of maybe or the fumes of someday. His vision is unclouded by wishful thinking. He deals in reality, in the unflinching truth of what is, not the seductive fantasy of what could be. He has learned the hardest of lessons. Some people do not want redemption. They do not seek growth. They only crave the comfort of your presence while they remain unchanged, feeding on your patience until nothing remains but resentment. The Sigma male does not sermonize or issue ultimatums, he observes. He watches for the alignment of words and actions, and when the pattern reveals stagnation, his response is surgical. No drawn-out goodbyes, no tearful pleas for improvement, just quiet, irrevocable distance. This is not cruelty. It is the mercy of a man who refuses to enable dysfunction, both in others and in himself. Evil thrives in the limbo between promise and delivery. It traps its victims in endless loops, love bombing, betrayal, half-hearted apology, repeat, knowing that hope will keep them coming back like gamblers to a rigged table. But the Sigma male steps away the moment he recognizes the game. He would rather bear the sharp sting of truth than the slow rot of delusion. Where others cling to potential, he prioritizes peace. Possibility does not intoxicate him. He measures people by their present, not their hypothetical future. So when the manipulator arrives with yet another, this time will be different. The Sigma male does not engage. He offers no debate, no second chances. A nod, a disappearance, an unbroken stride forward, that is his answer. He does not wait for change. He moves toward it, leaving the architects of empty promises shouting into the void. This is not coldness. It is the clarity of a man who has dissected hope and found that, too often, it is just despair in disguise. And that clarity? It is kryptonite to evil. Number 5, he doesn't need to be believed. Here lies the ultimate kryptonite to manipulation, a man utterly unconcerned with convincing others of his truth. Most people hunger for validation, they over-explain, justify, plead for understanding when challenged. This desperation is the oxygen that feeds emotional vampires. Gaslighters, narcissists, and psychological predators all rely on their victims' need for consensus, their terror of being seen as unreasonable. The Sigma male extinguishes this power dynamic at its source. His inner compass doesn't waver based on popular opinion. When he detects deception, he doesn't gather a jury, he simply adjusts his behavior accordingly. If someone's words and actions misalign, he doesn't confront or demand explanation, he files the discrepancy away and acts. This terrifies manipulators, whose entire strategy depends on debate. They're accustomed to victims who hand over their reality to be debated, who second-guess themselves when told, "You're too sensitive," or, "That never happened." But the Sigma male? He doesn't negotiate his perceptions. This isn't stubbornness, it's the result of ruthless self-honesty. He's already done the hard work of distinguishing intuition from paranoia through years of observation. When his gut whispers that something's amiss, he listens without requiring external confirmation. You can tell him he's imagining things, misinterpreted events, or overreacted, it changes nothing. His trust isn't given blindly, so it can't be revoked through argument. This creates an impenetrable defense. Without the ability to make him doubt himself, manipulators find themselves powerless. They can't weaponize his need for approval, he has none, can't exploit a fear of isolation, he prefers it, and can't bait him into circular arguments, he simply walks away. While others get dragged into exhausting debates trying to prove obvious truths, the Sigma male conserves energy, he already knows what he knows. His silence in the face of falsehood isn't acquiescence, but the ultimate dismissal. He lets liars twist in the wind of their own making, offering no resistance because resistance would imply their opinion matters. This unnerves deceivers more than any confrontation, they're left shouting into a void, their usual tactics bouncing off a man who doesn't need them to agree, only to stay out of his way. The Sigma male doesn't fight to be understood, he understands himself, and that's always been enough. Number 6, he sees you before you see him. The Sigma male never enters a space unprepared. While others rush in with boisterous energy, eager to be noticed or to stake their claim, he moves with the quiet precision of a shadow. What most mistake for passivity is actually hyper-awareness in motion. His stillness isn't absence, but absorption. Before a single word is spoken, he's already mapped the room's ecosystem. The nervous twitch of a liar's fingers, the false warmth of a social climber's laugh, the way certain voices tighten when speaking to authority. He deciphers hierarchies and alliances not through gossip, but by observing who leans in too eagerly, who hesitates before answering, whose eyes dart toward exits mid-conversation. This is the predator's greatest frustration, their usual tactics fail before they even begin. Manipulation relies on the element of surprise, on catching victims in vulnerable moments before defenses can form. But the Sigma male perceives threats in their larval stage. He notes the overeager handshake that lingers just a second too long, a salesman's tell, the rehearsed spontaneity of a compliment, a narcissist's opening move, the subtle shift in posture when someone lies, shoulders squaring to feign confidence. By the time a manipulator initiates their script, the Sigma has already categorized them, not as a threat, but as predictable. His assessment isn't cruel, merely clinical. He doesn't waste energy confronting deceivers, he simply adjusts their place in his mental architecture. Trusted? Kept at arm's length? Or marked for complete avoidance? These decisions happen in real time, with the speed of muscle memory. Charm offensives fail because he isn't swayed by performances, he's watching for the cracks between persona and action. Flattery slides off him because he recognizes it as currency, not compliment. When others are still parsing a stranger's words, he's already 3 moves ahead, having measured their essence not by what they claim, but by how they occupy space when they think no one's looking. This preternatural awareness dismantles evil's playbook entirely. Gaslighting? Impossible, he's already cataloged inconsistencies before the liar finishes speaking. Guilt trips? Laughable, he feels no obligation to justify his boundaries. The Sigma male doesn't just avoid traps, he sees the entire snare being built from the first twitch of the trapper's fingers. What remains isn't arrogance, but the quiet confidence of a man who trusts his perception more than others' projections. Number 7. His boundaries are spiritual landmines. Most people announce their boundaries like negotiable terms. If you do that again, I'll be upset. Please don't treat me this way. I need you to respect me. The Sigma male doesn't bother with warnings. His boundaries aren't requests, they are laws written in invisible ink, and by the time you realize you've crossed one, it's already too late. Where others might explode in anger or dissolve into pleading when disrespected, the Sigma male simply disappears. There's no dramatic confrontation, no tearful ultimatum, no second chance masquerading as forgiveness. One moment, he's there, the next, he's gone. Not in a petty or vengeful way, but with the quiet finality of a man who knows his own worth. Toxic individuals, accustomed to feeding off emotional reactions, find this terrifying. They're prepared for shouting matches, for tearful reconciliations, for the back and forth of guilt and forgiveness. But the Sigma male offers none of that. He doesn't argue for respect, he removes those who don't give it freely. This is why evil can't touch him. Manipulators rely on the victim's willingness to explain, to justify, to beg for understanding. But the Sigma male doesn't negotiate his dignity. His boundaries aren't just personal preferences, they're sacred, non-negotiable barriers protecting his peace, his energy, and his soul. Cross him once, and he'll retreat. Cross him twice, and you cease to exist in his world. There's no announcement, no fanfare, just the silent, irrevocable severing of ties. The scariest part for predators? They rarely see it coming. Most people telegraph their boundaries long before enforcing them, giving manipulators time to adjust their tactics. But the Sigma male doesn't warn. He observes, evaluates, and, when necessary, vanishes. By the time the manipulator realizes what's happened, they're left standing alone, swinging at a ghost. This is the ultimate defense, a man who cannot be baited, guilt, or trapped into emotional warfare. His boundaries aren't fences, they're landmines. Step on one, and the explosion isn't loud, but it's absolute. And once the dust settles? He's already 10 miles ahead, untouched and untouchable. Number 8, he speaks less, but his silence cuts deeper. In a world addicted to noise, to constant explanation, justification, and performative outrage, the Sigma male's silence is a weapon. Most people mistake volume for power, believing that the more they argue, explain, or defend themselves, the more control they assert. But the Sigma male understands the true weight of quiet. He doesn't waste breath on debates that serve no purpose, on circular arguments designed to exhaust rather than enlighten, or on emotional pleas for understanding. His power isn't in how loudly he can declare his truth, it's in how effortlessly he withholds reaction altogether. Manipulators, narcissists, and emotional predators thrive in chaos. They bait, provoke, and poke, hoping to elicit a response, any response, that they can twist, weaponize, or use as leverage. But the Sigma male denies them this fuel. When confronted with drama, he doesn't engage, he observes. His silence isn't passive. It's a calculated refusal to participate in games he's already decoded. Where others might scramble to defend themselves or seek validation, he simply disengages, leaving his would-be manipulators talking to a void. This unnerves them more than any outburst ever could. A shouted insult can be countered. A passionate defense can be dismantled. But silence? Silence is impenetrable. His quiet isn't empty, it's loaded with meaning. It says, I see what you're doing, and I refuse to play. It says, you aren't worth the energy of my reaction. And most importantly, it says, I owe you nothing, not my time, not my anger, not my validation. This is what makes his presence so unsettling to those who rely on emotional leverage. They can't gaslight a man who doesn't argue. They can't guilt-trip someone who refuses to explain himself. They can't control a narrative that he simply walks away from. When the Sigma male goes silent, it isn't retreat, it's domination. He doesn't need to raise his voice to establish authority. His stillness alone communicates that he has already assessed the situation, rendered judgment, and moved on. While others exhaust themselves in battles of words, he conserves his energy for what truly matters. His silence isn't just absence, it's a statement. And in that statement, entire manipulations crumble. Number 9, he's already made peace with pain. The Sigma male carries his suffering differently than other men. Where most people instinctively recoil from agony, seeking distractions, numbing agents, or scapegoats to blame, he has learned to sit motionless in the fire. He understands that pain, when fully faced, loses its power to destroy and instead becomes the forge of unshakable strength. While others drown their sorrows in addiction, empty relationships, or mindless consumption, he has stared into the abyss of his own darkest moments, loneliness that carved hollows in his chest, betrayals that rewired his nervous system, failures that dissolved his former identity and emerged not just intact, but alchemized. Evil preys on the unhealed. It whispers to old wounds, manipulates through unresolved trauma, and weaponizes the parts of ourselves we've neglected to confront. But the Sigma male offers no such vulnerabilities. His pain wasn't buried, it was metabolized. Every heartbreak became a lesson in discernment. Every betrayal transformed into armor. Where others carry festering wounds, he bears only scars, fully healed, nerve-dead, incapable of being reopened by emotional warfare. This renders him immune to the usual tactics of manipulation. You can't use guilt to control a man who has made peace with his regrets. You can't weaponize fear against someone who has befriended his own darkness. The Sigma male doesn't just endure suffering, he absorbed it, dissected it, and extracted wisdom from its marrow. This is why evil recoils from him. Most people can be controlled through their unresolved anguish, the desperate need to be loved stemming from childhood neglect, the performative masculinity masking insecurity, the people-pleasing that covers self-loathing. But the Sigma male? He's already excavated those depths. He doesn't run from his shadows, he walks with them as companions. Pain, to him, isn't a curse to avoid but the most brutal yet honest teacher he's ever known. When manipulators try to trigger old wounds, they find only granite, smooth, cold, and impenetrable. A man who has stared into the furnace of his own soul and didn't blink cannot be frightened by the matches of petty tyrants. Number 10, he has no herd to be banished from. Human beings are tribal creatures, biologically wired to fear exile. This primal terror is the fulcrum evil leverages, the threat of ostracization, the withdrawal of group approval, the silent treatment that makes most people grovel for re-entry. But the Sigma male stands outside this evolutionary programming. He never signed the social contract that says belonging equals survival. While others contort themselves to fit in, laughing at unfunny jokes, nodding at offensive opinions, swallowing their truths to avoid rocking the boat, he observes the charade with detached amusement. This makes him untouchable to social manipulation. Attempts to cancel him fail because he was never invested in the group's validation to begin with. Whispered rumors don't land when their target genuinely doesn't care what the herd thinks. The Sigma male's identity isn't a patchwork of external affirmations but an edifice built in solitude. He doesn't just tolerate isolation, he requires it, the same way forests need winter to reset their ecosystems. When toxic individuals try to punish him with silence or exclusion, they're met with serene indifference. In fact, he often exits situations long before the herd can turn on him, leaving would-be manipulators clutching empty air. This independence terrifies those who rule through social control. You can't threaten a man with exile when he views the crowd's approval as chains he voluntarily discarded years ago. While others anxiously refresh their social media for likes, digital versions of tribal acceptance, the Sigma male is elsewhere, immersed in pursuits that sharpen his mind and fortify his spirit. The moment a group becomes more draining than nourishing, he vanishes without announcement or apology. Evil loses all power when it encounters someone who doesn't just withstand solitude but thrives in it, a man who knows the most dangerous prison is needing others to tell you who you are. Conclusion: why evil can't touch him. The Sigma male isn't protected by luck, he's protected by awareness. He's walked through fire, sat in silence, and faced himself with a clarity most spend their lives running from. That isn't arrogance, it's earned wisdom. Evil can't touch him because there's nothing in him to bait. He isn't moved by status, lured by flattery, or shaken by rejection. He doesn't seek to impress, belong, or win approval. He lives by purpose, not performance. While others chase popularity, he chooses peace. His silence is power. Cutting someone off isn't cruelty, it's clarity. Evil withers in the presence of such self-possession. It can't survive near someone who sees through it but doesn't engage. Every scar became armor. Every betrayal sharpened his discernment. Every season alone deepened his intuition. Now, he walks with a spiritual instinct no manipulation can penetrate. You are not like the others, and that's not a flaw, but a design. You question everything, even your own thoughts. That's rare. That's sacred. If you've ever felt misunderstood, too intense, or too distant, recognize this, that's your shield. Your edge. Keep moving in silence. Keep standing in truth. You don't need the crowd to be chosen. You don't need noise to be heard. You were built differently for a reason, and now, that reason is clear. Evil can't touch what it can't reach. And it will never reach you.